I think we are live. I think we are here.
That's, what?
Yeah, I think so.
What? I don't know that you could really say that I'm live. I'm well, maybe live, but not alive.
Just as alive as usual.
You caught me after my happy hour again.
The happy hour on the Monday night happy hour here with Bill Hermann. If you guys have never checked that out, well, you're really not missing too much. All they do is sit around and drink and tell bad jokes.
No. We tell really good jokes.
Oh,
and the more alcohol we have, the better the joke.
Yeah, I think that was one of Chopper's favorite lines. Is the more you drink, the better my show is.
Yeah, exactly.
It made me laugh as I drank another beer. Hey, thank you guys for joining us tonight out there on those whatever channel, if you're on Facebook or YouTube, wherever you are at this evening. In the description of this video is part one. This is our industry spotlight that we've been doing here this fall, and we were going to be wrapping things up a couple of weeks ago with the interview with Bill. But there's so much in the history of Bill Hermann that we had to go.
There's so much that Bill just can't shut up about, is what you're saying.
There's so much. So tonight we're going to pick up part two. If you're looking for part one after this is all over and you're wondering what got us here to this day when we start up and pick up from this point.
And if you are looking for that, then we wonder, what kind of life do you think you have?
But that part of that video that link is in the description below. And if you happen to be watching part one and then you see there's a link in the description below, that'll bring you right back here. So there's this like time-space continuum thing. It's pretty cool. Just going to say it. Just going to say it out loud.
You're like the Neil deGrasse Tyson of the DJ world.
Yes, exactly. And you can get locked into that loop and you'll never escape.
So tell me, Oprah, thanks for letting me be on your show.
Oh, thanks for coming back.
Like they always say that you smell great, and you really do.
I do. I really do. I've only...
Will I get anything if I look under my seat?
No, they won't. But you will get a sports car, and you get a sports car, and you get a. Oh, sorry. So tonight, Bill, we need to kind of take it from where we left off, and you had just gotten to the point in your history of starting from Michigan, getting us to the Twin Cities. In that journey, you were working at Gatlin's, and you were just kind of wrapping up and coming to that realization that it was time to leave Gatlin's because you were wanting to really get into the DJ side of it. And for those of you who don't know what Gatlin's was...
Well, I always was a DJ. I was always a performer, but, I had a real job finally.
Next level. You were going to take it to the next level.
Right. Well, I thought the next level was the real job, right? It was the, the thing my dad had always said, you better get a real job. And I had a real job that paid really, really well. I mean, I've never made so much money in my life working at the Mall of America for the Gatlin Brothers, at Gatlin Brothers Music City, their big bar, nightclub. And I spent a lot of time, learning the restaurant business, the bar business, so I was good at it. And I was booking national acts, and I was hiring and training DJs and masters of ceremonies and people who could teach line dancing. And all I really wanted to do was do all the stuff on the stage that I was telling other performers they could do on the stage. I was doing all the math. I was doing all the, the business side of business in the restaurant and nightclub business, and it was killing me. It was the long hours, the stress, and I needed, I'm not, that's not who I am. And it was coming to a head. I don't know if I'd still be there, but it was one Saturday morning when we opened. It was when the Mall of America was first new.
Yes.
And when it was new, when they opened the doors at the Mall of America, people flooded in like ants. And every hallway was packed with human beings, and all the bars and nightclubs up on the Upper East Side where Gatlin Brothers was. The moment at 10 o'clock they opened everything up, they flooded these places, and they were way over capacity from the moment they opened the doors.
Yes,
and all of those restaurants up there were not ready to be open. Their systems and procedures, the way that they would serve people, just the POS systems to be able to ring liquor and food were not ready. Okay, so for the first probably month and a half, we were working as if we were selling things out of a cigar box at a roadside stand because none of the computer systems were working. And my job every day was to get fistfuls of cash and go to every one of the bar stations and fill the tills. And my boss was irritated one morning that we were a couple of minutes late opening up. So he opened up the bar before I had gotten through everything to be able to get out. So my hands are stretched to the limit with thousands of dollars of money, trying to get from one bar, 2 tills, fill the money, go to another till, and all these tills are really far away from each other. So he's opened up the doors, everybody's flooded in. I'm trying to push my way past people. He's behind me, angry with me, yelling at me. What are you doing? Why don't you have this thing open? Well, I opened up the doors at 10 o'clock. You should have been ready. He knew we weren't ready. I was upset. He was upset. I got upset. I turned around and then yelled at him to back the hell off. And he said, okay, mister. Okay. I got you now. This guy's, he's probably 6 inches shorter than me too. So he's like pointing up at me. And he says, you're going to get a write-up for that. And cocky as all hell, I said, you're going to write me up? Why don't you write me up for a termination? And he went, oh, and I took a deep breath. I leaned back with all that money and I threw it at him. And in the chest. And the money just exploded into this big ball of money. And it just started sprinkling down around him. Everyone in the bar, and there had to be a good 800 people in this place because it's a huge place. Everyone just went silent as they saw this big cloud of money go poof, and it's coming down. And he looks at me wide-eyed, hardly willing to say anything. And everyone, like in the movies, went, ah! And they rushed him, picked up the money, and I walked away going, and there you go, mister, boom, boom, boom. Everybody in everybody in their life should quit a job one day exactly the way I did. It felt awesome. I was on a high all the way back to my apartment until I got to my apartment and realized I hadn't saved any money and I do not have a job now. And I burned some huge bridges because those were the highest profile bars and restaurants in the United States at the time. And I didn't have a job and I didn't have any money and I didn't know what I was going to do. So I kind of sat in. I have rent coming up in 3 weeks, and I was single. So when you're single and you have a lot of money, you're not usually smart enough to save anything.
Yeah.
Especially when you're anybody, especially when you're, I don't know, me. And so I wasn't sure what I was going to do except for maybe beg my roommate to, give me a bit of a push to get me through the next month.
Mm-hmm.
And then a friend of mine who had a DJ company, or rather was a performer like me, he didn't have a DJ company at the time, had started working for Rent-A-Center. And Rent-A-Center, weeks before, had a huge holiday party, and the owner of Rent-A-Center saw karaoke for the first time. And he freaked out and went, "This is the greatest thing I've ever seen. We need to be in the karaoke business." So Rent-A-Center went and bought like hundreds of thousands of dollars of laser disc. You remember those big laser disc karaoke machines? I mean, they were huge. They stood about 3.5, 4 feet tall, and they were these big consoles that were like heavy as a Volkswagen. Mm-hmm. And you had all these discs that you went with you. And this guy had bought all these things, but didn't have anybody to run them and didn't know anything about them. And he says, "I want to call it RAC Entertainment, Rent-A-Center."
Yeah, yeah.
So a bunch of people, made a few calls from the corporate and brought in some people that they had seen at corporate parties and performers. And one of them was a friend of mine. And he called me up and he says, "We need hosts if you want to do this, And they shipped me down to Kansas City for training, which, for a guy who's been in the business for any amount of time, this is what you do to plug it in. This is a microphone. The microphone goes into in and the speakers come out of out. It's 3 days of, me standing around pretty much training everybody else. And then I got one gig out of it. And that one gig was in Prior Lake, Minnesota. And I'd never heard of Prior Lake because I was living in downtown St. Paul at the time. At a little bar called O'Malley's, and they had never had anything before. And the guy was doing me a favor, so I said, "Yeah, whatever you need, I just need the money." He paid me in cash. I went to the bar. There was nobody in the bar except for the bartender, who was irritated by the fact that somebody had hired somebody to do something. Mm-hmm. There were two regulars who were really drunk by the time I got there, and there was a young lady and a guy and me. And it was a big island bar, a big room, but the big bar in the center, and seats all around. So there's not a whole lot of room. There's not a dance floor or nothing. And there's a TV behind me, about a 57-inch TV that I hooked into, and that's it. So I'm trying to get people to sing, and I got a wireless, and I'm singing songs, and I'm talking to the drunk, and trying to tell jokes, and trying not to feel like I'm the biggest loser in the world for walking away from a job that was paying me about $200,000 a year. And I went over to the young lady who was sitting there, and I said, "Come on, sing along with me." And she got really mad at me and was really rude to me. And like I had really super offended her. And I freaked out a little bit, like, "I'm really sorry. I'm just doing my job. I wasn't trying to do anything." Yeah, whatever, man. Just get away from me. So I went back and I just kind of did my thing, and I left, and I called my buddy and I said, "Well, if you get any, complaints, I think I might have messed up because I had a regular, and you know how regulars are in small town bars." And he said, "Well, yeah, we didn't lose it, so you can have it next week too." So next week I went in there on Thursday night, and now Thursday night is packed this time, and people are singing and having a good time. And then in comes this girl again, now with a whole harem of other girls at the other end of the bar, all kind of, talking and giggling and pointing over at me. Turns out the girl, that girl was Maureen, my wife.
Jeez.
Yeah.
I didn't know
and
this
she
stuff.
asked me out that night.
Wow.
Yeah. And from that gig, I started to kind of build back, doing what I do again. I still had all the rig, all the gear. Still had records. I still had records, and I was collecting CDs but really I was doing records at the time. This was 92.
Yeah.
90,
Yep. 92 somewhere.
I suppose.
Yeah.
And I started dating her. And then when I started to, when I fell in love and I asked her to marry me, is about the time that I decided that working for other people wasn't really going to help me to actually help to build something. Mm-hmm. Because now I was no longer going to be responsible for me.
Yes.
Me alone every DJ can tell you, and a lot of guys that are entertainers or do bar gigs, you just got to get to the end of the month. Have enough money to make your rent, especially us guys, that's what we did. And now I'm going to be responsible for somebody other than myself. I better figure out a way to make this work.
Yeah.
And that's when I started to kind of take apart the definition of what DJ was, what a DJ company was, and try to decide whether or not I wanted to be a DJ company with a lot of DJs, or if I just wanted to see if I could be a professional performer who also was a DJ. Because on top of that, I was still, there were several agents in town that were sending me out for auditions and for voiceover and for modeling stuff. I didn't really get any of the good-looking modeling stuff. It was always where's the heavy guy that looks like a dad? Still, actually, to this day. But still, work is work when you're a performer.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I started to really think about what this really should be and can be.
Mm-hmm.
And about that time, when I kind of put together what I thought I knew. Well, when I put together exactly what I did know, I saw a magazine. I don't know how I found it. It might have even been at a magazine stand, but I saw Mobile Beat magazine, and I picked it up, and I'm like, oh, okay, a trade magazine. I worked in radio. We always got radio and records magazines, so that, that helped me for work and helped me with my radio stuff. This probably will help me with this as well. And the second magazine that I got after I signed up for it, they were starting to talk about a DJ conference that was happening in Las Vegas, and that was actually that was after we got married. It wasn't. I've moved past 91 to like 97, 98 now.
Sure. Yep.
And I'd never been to Las Vegas in my life. And my wife said, well, you could write it off.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's cool. I can go to Las Vegas. I could write it off. And so I went, took my wife, went to a conference, and I looked around and saw something that I never thought I would see, which is a bunch of other people who thought and did things like me, who talked like me, who shared stories like me, that were me. And they were, running. They were doing it for a living. They were doing it, this is all they did. This was a job. This wasn't just the dodge that I had created to be able to keep my dad from making me go to college. It wasn't just beer and chicks anymore. It couldn't be. It can be. It could have still been, but couldn't be anymore. So that's really when I saw a bigger place. Every evolution that I've ever had as a performer has come because I was given the gift of seeing what I'm already doing from somebody else's perspective, from somebody else's lens. And that was a huge lens.
Yeah, it was.
And it changed a lot of what I did. And that year, I believe it was 98, not only did I see all of these really cool things and ways that I could make my show better and ways that I could treat what I'm doing more like a business and still have fun as a performer, and I met a bunch of people from all over the country that thought I was cool because I thought they were cool.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing for me that year was I saw Mark Farrell speak.
Yep.
And the idea that I could start making something more than $400 DJing a party, which I thought was a lot at the time. And I could, easily get 3 times that amount of money just by saying that that's what I charge. Really just, it was like an expansion of my mind that I didn't expect.
Yeah.
And when I came home, I was really excited about it. I told my wife I'm going to start doing this. Even my wife went, no, I don't know. You're doing fine. You're contributing to the family really well. I wouldn't go down that path. And I said, well, one of the things he talked about was, sit down and figure out your expenses and find out how you do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I sat down and for the first time worked out my business plan for the year and looked at how much money I brought into the business, brought into the family with my business.
Yes.
And my wife, who has always been doing the same, that anyway, as a hairdresser, she's a single operator hairdresser, right? She was bringing in $57,000 a year being a hairdresser. After expenses, that's what she was making. And I'm like, I'm doing that.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
successful.
just show you, right?
Everybody loves me.
Maybe I won't have to do this, like Maureen said. I won't have to triple my fees. I can tell you, I'm sure if I triple my fees, I'll be making way more than what I'm making now, which is at least as much as she is.
Mm-hmm.
When I got done, I realized that the year that she brought in $57,000, I brought in
$4,000. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when
So
you take that,
I
and you figure,
immediately raised my prices, and with that raise of prices, I had to now look at things from another lens again.
mm-hmm.
I had to go, can I go from $400 to $1,200? And will they pay me? And if I don't know yet, because you know how it is, you're booking out a year. So I don't know if people are going to start saying yes to me at that.
Yeah.
Plus, I had an agent at the time, a guy in town that was booking me as well, and he was very thrilled with the fact that I was only $400.
Mm-hmm.
So the first 3 calls I got, I booked easily, without anything. I just on the phone. How much are you? I said this much. He goes, great. When can you? I'm like, okay. So after the first 3, I went to that agent and I said, this is great. You're not gonna believe it, but I'm making this now.
Mm-hmm.
You guys have been doing great work for me. I'm going to make you more money. Just this is how much I make now. And he went, I can't sell you for that. I said, well, no, yeah, you can, because no one said no to me.
Yeah.
I'm booking in at $1,200. You could certainly book it at $1,200. You're going to get a bigger piece of the pie because you're an agent. The agent gets a bigger piece of the pie. If I bring more money in, you're going to make more money. It's a win-win, man.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to do all that extra business stuff. You just book me and I'll go out there and I'll make it. And he said, no, can't do it, won't do it. I will book you for what I'm charging. I said, well, then I guess we're going to have to part ways. I don't want to. I'd rather have you booking me for more money. And he was really mad, but I walked away from it. And that year, I went from the year before I did 20 shows. That year I did 60. And I tripled my fees. I went from 20 shows to 60 shows. And then I started saying, well, what can I do with this? How can I take now this money? What can I do with it? And I started looking at how I'm doing things. I need to, if I'm going to book myself and he's not going to book me, then I need to put myself aside. I can't really be what everybody else is. I need to look at my business from a different perspective too. So I started taking it apart. I wrote down all the things that you do, and then I started, well, this is the definition of that. If I change that definition, or I changed that definition, or I just changed how it worked, made it look like something else, could I get away with that?
Mm-hmm.
Could it be something else? And I was automatically starting to take and put as a part of that all of the things that I do as an actor. Every time I do a live stage performance, especially in community theater, you learn everything about theater, not just here are the lines to the play, but here's the play. This is how it works. This is how it's written. These are the other parts. This is the staging. This is the lighting. This is how the story from point A to point B, and then the transitions that go from to Act 2 to Act 3, from scene 1 to scene 2 to scene. And I started to see that was a correlation with what I'm doing as a DJ. Maybe I can kind of build that out. And the thing that really pushed me over the side was I came home from an event one night of frustrated and upset because yet again, I got there early. I got set up, before anybody got there. But their contract with me was to start at 8 o'clock and go to midnight. So I just didn't do anything, right? I would sit there with no music playing. They would use the microphone in the room. The dance floor was filled with tables.
Yeah.
And I would sit there till 8:30, 8:45, while they were going, why can't you just start playing music loud so we can dance? I'm like, well, we got to wait for the dance floor to clear. you know. So I was blaming the hall for that, and I was blaming this for that. And then I came home and I said, well, if they would have just hired me for the 3 hours before, there's all kinds of things that I could have done to play with the audience, to get them on my side, to get them excited about being a part of, so that when I did start at 8 o'clock, I don't start with a cold audience, right? Why won't they do that? No one will hire me to do that. They just want the 4 hours. They don't want the extra money. They don't want to pay the extra money to have me there beyond the 4 hours. And my wife said, well, then why do you offer it like that? My wife, the hairdresser wife, is the one who said, so then don't do it unless you begin when the guests begin to arrive.
Right.
They're not clearing the dance floor tables. Could you clear the dance floor tables? And I went, well, yeah. I said, well, then why aren't you doing it? Isn't it going to go better for you and for the guests if you just take control? Yeah. Well, then who are you trying to make happy? Why are you just sitting back and it's not up to them? They don't know what they need to be sure that you're successful. So just go do it. But I need to make more money. I said, well, she goes, then just charge. If it's $1,200 for 4 hours, then and $100 an hour for each additional hour, and you need 3 hours, and it's $1,200, $13, $14, so it's $1,500. And you're there, and you're there.
Yeah.
In fact, she says, I'd probably make it, $1,900, because that way it'll cover you from if you have to start at 3 and go all the way. But yeah, it would. Okay, so that's your price now. And you start when the guests begin to arrive, and you're done until they tell you to be done. So I suppose I could do that, but who's going to pay me? Once again, I'm back to that whole thing. Who's going to pay me for that?
Right.
Again, I didn't lose any work. I booked more. Again, now I'm almost at $2,000. And this was before this year that I've booked at $1,200 is over. So now I'm just doing what I know works as a theatrical performer. I know that now that I'm there when people arrive, I am in control of how people feel, how people see things, how people hear things.
Sure.
What I tell them to do it, they'll do it. When I say we're going to have fun, they say, yes, we will, because I have already set it up. I've worked that into the whole idea of what I'm doing. I'm not really telling them I'm doing that. I'm working the room for them on their behalf. And that then became, I must have figured out, I figured out finally what everybody does. All these successful guys. This is what they're doing. Because no one was telling me. I just kind of figured it out, right? So here I am. Now I'm charging $2,000. And I went another year, next year I went up to 25. The next year I went up to 35. I'm at $5,000 now just to leave the house without any lights. But during that time, because of what happened with me at Map DJ, and or what happened to me at the conference, I was so excited about how this guy, Mark Farrell, got me excited about things. And I saw that there were these national associations everywhere.
Yeah.
That maybe I should just call my colleagues. I had so much fun talking to colleagues around the country. There must be a bunch of colleagues in the Twin Cities area. So I literally got on the phone and called a bunch of people. And during those calls in 1998, 99, I came across you, who must have had the same epiphany about the same time, because you were doing the same thing. Calling people, talking about, let's get together. Let's, share ideas. Let's motivate each other to make our lives better and our businesses better and make more money. And you and I started working together. And from that, the first Minnesota Association of Professional DJs kind of became something. At first it was just a bunch of us getting together. And those meetings grew really quickly, if I remember correctly. We went from just a few to up to over 100 in less than a couple of months. People getting together just to hear just the message that you and I were charging 3 to 4 times the price of anybody else. And how the hell were you guys doing that? And we weren't even sure how to talk about how we were doing it, except that we were. And if we can, you can, right? And then I don't remember how we kind of came to maybe we should start an association. But we did. and that's Map DJ, which quickly grew into Midwest Association of Professional DJs because Wisconsin, we're right on the border here in the Twin Cities of Wisconsin. And then Iowa wanted to be a part of it, and Wisconsin, and North Dakota, and South Dakota. Am I missing something? Because you and I, that's when we became friends.
Yep. Yeah. That timing in that we met. I don't think we met, or we really didn't talk until we got into that 99. But there are pictures from 98 where you and Troy and I are all in a suite, one of the suite gatherings.
The DJ Zone Street.
Yeah, the DJ Zone Suite, and there the three of us are having different conversations as far as, but yeah, there we are in the same photo. It just kind of was, it was kind of that ironic little moment.
I met Troy Ackerman too, in '98 on the way back, flying back. He was on the same flight as I was, and we ended up standing next to each other at baggage claim outside waiting for our rides. I'm standing with my luggage, and then this big, 9.5 feet tall guy came up and stood next to me. And I look over and say, "Hey, how the hell are you doing?" And he goes, "I'm doing okay." Troy's just like, "I'm doing okay." I said, "So where were you? Were you in Vegas?" He goes, "Yeah, I was in Vegas." So what were you there for? DJ conference? Oh my God, me too. And that was the day that he and I met. And I'm sure it was the day that I scared the crap out of him. Because, Troy's a really quiet guy, and I was not. But yeah, Map DJ grew because you and I kind of decided that we wanted this to be something. And the first conference that Map DJ ever did was because of conversations you and I had. And then a lot of the work that you put in, even though I had a lot of ideas, I didn't really know how to kind of put it together like you did. So our first Map DJ conference was that was like 300 people.
Yeah,
the first one we ever did.
Yep, we had Peter Mary come in, and he did multiple. I was actually looking at pictures of that first flyer that we did for that event. And
oh, really?
Yeah, Peter,
I found a video of all of his presentations too.
He was a much younger looking
man. I got that somewhere. But yeah, we all of a sudden became something.
Yeah,
that people were talking about. And I was the president. I became the president right away, which was really nice. But then we were like 6 years in, and I was still the president. And I think it was a conversation I had with you or you and everybody else on the board. And I said, this really can't continue as something that is just me as the guy in charge. Mm-hmm. And I think it was because I had read some stuff from John Maxwell. In fact, I think I gave you your first John Maxwell book. And we talked about him. And one of the things he talked about was an organization is only as good as the leaders that you create to keep it going. And if the failing of that organization, I take on me, because I don't think I did a good enough job building the leaders that needed to be there to be able to keep it going. Mm-hmm. We just kind of went, well, you'd be kind of good at it.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do it anymore. And I think we had...
it stepped aside. But I think part of that is we look back at it, look at what we know now, even what we knew 10 years at that time.
We were really kind of just making it up as we went.
Really, we were. And trying to, the whole idea of implementing some of the lessons we were learning outside. You mentioned John Maxwell, being able to study and learn and then incorporate. That was a professional fee, even though we were all professionals in the DJ industry. I mean, look at my business card; it says it.
Yep.
We never understood that. It just didn't click, and it was, and I think that's one of the things. And I'm talking to the younger generation of DJs who are coming, and it's a lot of it.
Well, I don't know if that's the things we were talking. Mindset of the young DJ really tell their dad girls, and it is a single time the biggest reason the guy will go, okay, I'm going to either get out of DJing or I'm going to figure out how $1,000.
Yeah.
Whereas with the DJ business, you need to now. I don't think it's with that said. The reason why maybe a lot And the full time, the DJ is like, shut up, Dad. I know what I'm doing. So when we started saying that to that generation, and when we still say that to that generation, normally I think what they're hearing is their dad saying, hey, get your crap together, man. You know? And so, yeah, why wouldn't they still a cool job? I still would have quit. I would quit now. There are people, there is enough. The world right now is such a way that if I went a maximum of 40 hours a week, you know, I could have weekends off. I could more money. But if you don't figure out, a lot of guys, I'm still a good enough businessman. I'm not as good a DJ as most, but not kind of
big side. A recharge zone.
Do all the stuff I hate is for that. I could not stay away from the stage. One of my first acting teachers, I'm an artist. I mean, I'm an actor. They wanted insure for a long time because I really did want it. But it is something that is my evolution and my story. Instead of, I didn't really want to turn this. I'm just going to let you on your stage. Those people that are going to hire you need to be, you know, because really when you first start selling yourself, it's like, I am the great, saying things like them. And then you start to hear what they truly want as opposed to what you can do. Now it's no longer sales. It's now the artistry of giving people what they want. You know, using all these tools that I've been working on for years to be able to not give a crap what I can do. Start to notice that, which is still screwed up, right?
Yep.
I still had to be able to spend enough time to hear them, because it's no longer until that was it to them, and I could see them go, I get that. But here, I didn't really start acting towards service and how we serve others. Really completely get it then either. The 20-year-old millionaires.
That I learned at 40, you're going to be so much farther ahead. But some of those lessons you're just not going to be ready to use or implement.
Or you're not going to hear them.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? I mean, I got kids, you know,
they'll hear them, but
adults.
It won't make sense.
I can tell them things all day. They still want to learn it on their own. They still want to hit their head against.
And acting and
be on the stage. Loved it. There, I write a thing because we've talked about this. So I wrote a speech called "The Entertainment Experience." I did it was it at the Northern DJ conference? I did it for the first time, or the Southern? 15 people that were there. So I do it there. I'm like, and I in fact, because he was really good at it. People like, that was really great. But we get that you're doing that, but that you don't know. Yeah, I do that. No, I know more than a few other people who said to me this. It was 11 years ago.
2006. Yeah, a couple.
And it was for people who wanted to that I'd give this information to. Yeah, no, I heard. And when someone say that in the road to I'd done my first workshop, how do I now feed anybody? And immediately meaningful to me, the flagship workshop is called The Power to Create. One of which someone outside of Deaton John does the heavy lifting. Boom, other than some introducing it, orchestration, and how they can transform. And then even if they just use a small piece, less their own at all. You know, and each person has their own experience of it. I brought up Jeremy Breck. Jeremy Breck, God bless him. He's such a wonderful, kind, beautiful human being. And every time I talk to him, he pats me on the back and says things like, without my workshop, he would not have the business that he has. He would not be a lighting designer if not what he saw in the workshop he took with me. I'm like, well, that can't be true, you know. But something within the conversation, because of my intention of giving them a transformational experience, gives them something. Jeremy's was within the lighting design world. And he's taken it and gone some amazing places.
Yes, he certainly
amazing places. Many of you know who DJ JR is and DJ Jeremy. But then there's other guys that have done completely other things. We had one young lady from Seattle who came. She hadn't even DJ'd a wedding yet. Who took the workshop. She got all done, and she's like, "How much should I charge?" And when I told her that I was charging what I was charging, she goes, "That doesn't even seem like enough for everything I'm going to put into this." She did like 3 weddings, and now she's an international speaker and trainer.
Nice.
And she took what I gave her and built and evolved into that. This is for me, has become. I didn't think I would be here. I'm still the kid that looked at my dad, who was like, "Oh, it's too bad, kid, that you don't have a college education."
Mm-hmm.
I literally sometimes can look at what I'm doing now and see my successes and go, "Geez, I wonder what I would have been if I would have gone and done,
Whatever.
got a master's degree, or even I got a degree from a radio college."
Mm-hmm.
9 months to figure out that I already knew all that stuff because I worked 2 years in radio, But I'm a high school graduate, barely, a radio degree from school, who is now speaking internationally, training internationally, and now speaking to a larger audience beyond my own industry.
Right. Yeah.
Something I never thought would be part of who I am. But I attribute I'm nothing if not for the people who come before me. I would not be here without you, John. I wouldn't be. I would not have what I have if I had not met Mark Farrell.
Yeah.
If I had not met any of those people along the way and started to see the possibility of what my life could be as a performer. Every acting coach, every voiceover coach, every radio programmer, every agent that I've ever had. I stand on the shoulders of all of those people, and I teeter because I still am not sure that I should be standing here.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the reason why I still do. I don't know. But when I hear things like, you and I have been friends a long time. So when you said, "Hey, I want to do an interview with you," I was like, yeah. We're just going to be us, John and I, because that's what we do, right? And John Young is going to interview me, but John and I are just John and I. No one's going to friggin' care about this stuff. I'm not sure that anybody gives a crap what I have to say. And the older I get, the more I wonder if anybody who listens to me, especially any of the young kids, are like, who's the old guy with the gray hair, and why do I give a crap what he's saying? Come on, can he beat mix?
Can he scratch?
Yeah, I can. Yes. I can beat mix. I can scratch. I was taught by. That's another part of the story. But I was taught by a guy who was taught by Grandmaster Flash, how to beat mix. So yeah, I know how to do that. But I learned with albums and 12 inches in a club north of New York City. But none of that really. That didn't send me down the path of being the next Skrillex. And here I am dating myself just by saying Skrillex, right?
Yeah,
that didn't make me a famous club jock, even though I could have gone that direction, right? It's tough. And plus, because I have a tough time saying that I'm a DJ, because really, my roots are not in DJing. I have some roots in DJing, but my roots are as an actor and a performer. And DJing was another stage that I had to master. Comedy, improv, drama, lighting, staging, all of those things. To stand on a stage, I needed to understand everything about it. I can't put together and take apart a Chevy Oldsmobile without understanding everything about it. And that's what what it's been for me in theater. And theater is ever changing all the time. Television, I had to learn how to look into a camera and to act for a camera, which is a way better, different thing than to act on a stage in front of 400 people, right? So, or to do sales, something I friggin' hated. Hated. It's still not my favorite thing, but I got good at it because I had to.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I didn't, the stage would elude me.
It would not have been there.
This is the root of where I came from, and the reason why I'll probably continue to work is because I still am anchored within that root, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm. Bill, we got to wrap up here, my friend. Thank you very much for being on here. We're going to do a quick switch over, and we'll be back in about 3 minutes here with Dan and MJ tonight. Bill, I've appreciated our time together. Thank you so much for jumping on for the second part. Both the links will be for the other part, whichever one you're watching, it'll be in the description below.
And we were having some streaming issues too, weren't we?
Yeah, we had a little bit. Some of them were better than others. So we're going to find out which one was the best one, and I'm going to probably upload that one again. So
I was going to say, are you as a record of the stream, or did you record this as well?
It should have been recorded in another. There's a repository spot where it gets recorded, so I'm hoping that one should be fine. Everything looked good going out of here, so we'll see what that is.
Okay, well, because I'm expecting that after we post both of these, you're going to get millions and millions of people. They're going to sit through 2 hours of me.
We'll catch you guys in just a few minutes. We got to jump. Thanks, Bill.